Hi, Amber and Samuel. There is just a lot going on out here right now. I want to show you exactly what's going on. First of all, I'm on Cove Branch Road, which is just a few miles off of Interstate 75 off the Mount Vernon exit. Now, the Division of Forestry is out here. I was able to stop them for just a few minutes to get some information. As you can see, they are very, very busy out here right now. They tell me about approximately 75 acres are on fire right now. A forestry official says they have actually just been called off actually fighting this fire because of what they call trigger points, which means the humidity level is just not safe to actively go into the forest and fight this fire right now. They tell me there is a line form on one side of the fire, so right now the focus is primarily on home and structure protection. Now again, they are working very hard. The homes out here have not been evacuated, and then there are several homes out here, but officials are asking for people to not come out here if you don't have to. Now, we will stay out here and continue to update you as new information regarding this forest fire becomes available. For now, I'm reporting live in Rockcastle County. Monique Blair, WKYT.
Hey there, Facebook. Mike Linden here in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Behind me is the Gatlinburg area, which right now is starting to fill up with a very unfortunate looking hazy smoke. It's been light over the past several hours, but now as the sun goes down and the winds begin to pick up outside of this severe weather threat coming in from the west, the winds picking up, causing some of that fire to begin to pick up as well. Now, I have my phone here with me if you guys are watching me on Facebook, and if you have any questions so far about what we know, feel free to ask, and I can definitely respond to those questions. I'm here with Sean Moody as well. He is off working on his story to come up here for the newscast. We've been on every single newscast going live. So here's what we know so far, some up-to-the-minute information. The governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, says this is the largest fire in Tennessee in over 100 years. And plenty of the people that I spoke with, I should mention, I'm at the LeConte Center, which is one of the Red Cross emergency shelters. People that I've spoken to in there that live in the Gatlinburg area and have lived here for decades say nothing like this has happened before. So you can imagine what they were going through when all of this started happening, and all of a sudden people are telling them to evacuate from their homes, leave everything behind and evacuate. I mean, a pretty fluid and a pretty scary situation for some of those people. So, I mean, of course, a lot of people sending out their well wishes to the folks in Tennessee. James Towler, he's asking how much is destroyed. All that we know right now is hundreds of homes and businesses have been destroyed, including the mayor of Gatlinburg, Mike Werner. His home was among one of those destroyed, but he is confident, as well as many of the people that I've spoken to are confident, that they will be able to come back from this, that this is a minor setback, but they will be able to rebuild and get back to where they were. Other than that, we do know that several people have been transported to an area hospital for injuries, as well as, unfortunately, 3 people have died as a result of these fires. Janice Simpson asking, has it gotten to Hollywood yet? I would imagine that you're referring to one of the resorts here in Pigeon Forge. I guess you'd have to be a bit more specific for me. But all that we know is that we have not been able to get into the Gatlinburg area. Again, I'll step aside so you can see behind me. The fires are still burning and have been since yesterday. So we still are not 100% sure as to what some of those particular businesses that have burned down. Sean, if you can actually pull up the list that we were sent with some of that information, that would be great. Let me see. Have they found the person responsible? Joanna, that is another great question. As of now, there is no cause to the fires. Of course, matters were only made worse by the fact that Tennessee has been under a historic drought. I mean, we haven't seen significant rain in Kentucky before yesterday since August. Tennessee, it goes back even farther than that. Not to mention all of the strong winds only fanning those flames, so that's certainly not going to help things. I'm going to bring in Sean Moody now, who's been with me all afternoon. Sean, can you tell us some of the businesses?
I want to give you an update. Yeah, we've got a list of the status of some of the attractions here. Of course, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, you just have countless number of attractions, and I'm just going to go down this list. There are a lot of them. This is what we know. The Alamo Steakhouse destroyed. This is alphabetical, by the way. The Aramont School of Arts and Crafts, all buildings except Hughes Hall and Wild Wing survived with little damage. Black Bear Falls, there's some conflicting information on that one. It looks like emergency management is still trying to figure that one out. Buckberry Lodge says they're currently assessing the situation, but right now not taking reservations.
Oh, so Sean, somebody instead of Hollywood, I guess it was just a typo. They're referring to Dollywood. Yeah. So what do we know anything about Dollywood?
Dollywood, several cabins damaged or destroyed. Of course, Dollywood, you've got the theme park and everything like that too. So we don't know any information about the theme park. But Dollywood Park has some wind damage, it says, but no damage from the fire itself. LeConte Lodge, we're standing in front of, is intact. The Mysterious Mansion, I saw a lot of people posting on Facebook about that one destroyed, unfortunately. So it's, this is one of those places. We were talking with a woman who's visiting here from Jessamine County. We were talking with her earlier today, and as many people come to Kentucky, or excuse me, from Kentucky come to Gatlinburg, they do it over and over again, and they build these memories up in these places. And so it's a really sad thing for these people. They have so many memories in these chapels, these restaurants, time with their kids. and a lot of these memories of smoke.
So we have about 5 or so more minutes before we have to get back to our newscast. Of course, you can watch on WKYT.com/live stream, or of course you can tune into WKYT until 7 o'clock with our newscasts, giving you the up-to-date information as well. Someone is asking, Joanna Lynn is asking, do they have it contained? In short, no. I mean, and they're very concerned with the next 24 hours because we're pretty much looking at a carbon copy weather-wise out of what we saw yesterday. Incredibly strong winds, more rainfall, which is good, but I mean, Sean, we're standing on dry grass right now. You wouldn't guess it had rained yesterday.
I'm going to give you all a look at the hills behind us here. Mike, if you would step to the side there,
sure.
We're going to zoom in, and you're going to see some of this smoke that we've been talking about.
I'll keep talking through some things here. Westgate Resort and Spa, somebody just asked. Coincidentally, I actually spoke with a couple that got married there yesterday. How about that? They got married and had to evacuate. As far as we know, what they've been told, it is gone as well.
So if you have some questions you want to know about the forecast for the weekend, certainly anything about the winter weather, we'll try to get more specific and answer some of those questions as well. You know, Jim, I start getting questions like what you see here back at the end of summer.
Oh, I guarantee you.
I mean, especially with the teachers and the kids. You know, the one thing that I have found via Twitter, more teachers want snow days than kids. Teachers, are you out there? Can you give me an amen on that one?
Oh, I guarantee. I do not doubt you one bit.
And this year now, the big question has been, are we going to make it 3 in a row of getting in on a big snowstorm? Because we just went through back-to-back winters that gave us anywhere from 10 to 24 inches of snows on 3 different occasions in 11 months. I can't find another time that has happened in central and eastern Kentucky in under a year.
It was absolutely incredible to be a part of it as well. And you just think, you know, last year we had a very cold November, very warm December, and then we got past December, and then here it came.
Yeah, and we finally got into that big snow event last year. So the question becomes, what do we look at when we're talking about winter weather? You know, I like to look at the local to see what's going on across Kentucky, match these years up with prior years. For instance, the summer was wet. It was a weird summer because you had temperatures that were borderline hot, but yet it was very wet. Normally around here, you get hot summers and dry summers together. You don't get hot and wet summers together. We had that this year. Then we got to late August, and the faucet turned off. We kept the warm temperatures, but it's been dry ever since.
I mean, it really has. You think back to about August, I think maybe it was 18th. I don't know why that number's coming to my mind. That was the last time we had at least an inch of precipitation.
It was. It's been a long time. So one of the things that I try to do then is go back and say, okay, let me find another hot and wet summer that was followed by a hot and dry fall. You know what? I couldn't find any.
So then the question becomes, how did you come up with the forecast?
Yeah, so now we're kind of into a mode where I say, okay, let me expand my looking area a little bit. And I always like to look across the northern hemisphere to see what's going on. One of the things I'm looking at, and we can show you on this graphic here, is out in the Pacific Ocean. Jim, last year we had one of the strongest El Niños ever going on. I think it was, by most calculations, either second or third, depending on which exact calculation you had. That was where the equatorial Pacific waters were so warm, it just overpowered the weather pattern across the country. And you're thinking, how does that influence the weather in Kentucky? Well,
it does.
Pacific is the biggest and baddest body of water on the planet.
It's huge.
It's huge, and we're downstream from that. So it had a big impact. This year, we've got a La Nina, or a very weak La Nina, that is going on. That means the waters are a little cooler than normal there. Usually does not have a big overpowering impact on the weather across the lower 48. It does have an impact, though. Similar years for a weak La Nina. I can go back to 1995 was one of the years I looked at. And 1995 had a weak La Nina as well. And that went on to produce a historic winter across the eastern part of the country. I didn't want to go that route, obviously. But that was one of the years that was similar to that. But that's not the only thing we look at.
Right. You've got other things. You just keep rambling.
Chime in anytime. Listen, he just wants his own talk show. I'm still in his weather thunder right now.
You are. I mean, I can't even get to ask him a question
All right,
because he goes right into. But you're right. You do look at other things out there as well. First, we're talking about what's going on in the Pacific Ocean there around the equator. Okay, but you also look back in time.
I do. I look back in time. I go back and look at a lot of those other years, like I mentioned, 95. Other years that have been showing up on my local analog list that kind of match up a little bit seasonally. 2002, which led, at least in part, to me in the bold prediction for this year, which I'll get to in a little bit for folks who missed it earlier. Got to keep a little suspense.
Of course.
Got to keep the suspense going until the end of this. And then 95, but several winters from the 1960s actually were showing up. The winter of 62, 63 showed up several times in a lot of the data sets that I come up with and look at.
Good morning, Sam, Dick, and Barbara Bailey with you on the Saturday morning, live from the studios of WKYT. And Barbara, actually a very sad morning because we are back where we were 10 years ago. This is the 10-year anniversary of the crash of Flight 5191.
A very somber day, and all the families will be gathering today and other people in the community as well to mark this anniversary. They say this is going to be the last time they do this kind of a public anniversary celebration.
And public's a good word because the families have said they want the public to come to this service at 10 o'clock today at the Arboretum. They want to thank the community for the immense amount of support. If you were here in central Kentucky and Lexington 10 years ago, you know that in the days and weeks and months following the crash, a lot of people poured out their support to these families. Even gives me chills thinking about it, Barbara. 49 lives lost and so many people affected. But the community really came together and rallied around those people, and the families want to thank them for that.
And I don't think any of us, as we were heading into work after we got the call, there's been a plane crash, none of us really imagined that 49 souls would be lost in that. And as the morning progressed, we realized just how devastating this was going to be.
Right. I got a phone call at 6:30 in the morning from our news director, Robert Thomas, and he just simply said, we think a plane has crashed near Bluegrass Airport. Well, I'm thinking maybe it's a small commuter plane, 2 or 3 people aboard, maybe somebody's been injured badly. We had no idea, and the news, as you remember, you're out here with me anchoring, just got worse and worse as more things got confirmed.
Well, and it also was a time when you realized that Lexington really at its core is a small town.
Yes.
Because I don't think there were very many people around here who said, I didn't know anybody who was on that plane. I think everybody had some connection to people on that plane and felt it in a very personal way. Of course, not as devastating as those family members. I really feel for them. Hello, Facebook. Good morning. It is Election Day across the U.S. Finally, I think a lot of people might say, finally it's here.
Oh, I'm telling you, what a time it has been over the last 18 months or so, right? But we are just so delighted to be taking part in this this morning as we are live with these 50 states, bringing you all the coverage from our individual parts of America.
You know, a different election all the way through, even down to this. You know, I got up early this morning to go out and vote because I wanted to make sure it was done. Our polls opened at 6 this morning. They won't close until 6 o'clock tonight, but it was very smooth moving. There was a line, but they moved you through pretty quickly.
That's good. By the way, I don't know if you said, this is Barbara Bailey, who has been here a while. And I'm Bill Bryant, and
very passionate always about covering politics.
Yeah,
you
covered
always
election.
have been.
My first election night for WKYT was election night in 1984, and that was the year that Mitch McConnell was elected to the Senate from Kentucky, and he never lets me forget that. So
that's right.
So it's very interesting. All right, so Kentucky has been this great, what you call bellwether state. That is, it went along with the rest of the country from 1964 to 2004, and then since 2004 it has trended other ways. It has moved, and it has become a much more Republican state. And as you know, Obama winning those 2 times in 08 and 12, Kentucky went with the Republicans. So it's very interesting that in 1992 and 1996, Bill Clinton campaigned election eve. His last stop of his campaigns in 92 and 96 were in Kentucky.
And we have not seen a lot of the presidential campaigning here this time. We really haven't. We saw it in the primaries and the caucus.
We had the caucus because what we had going on here in Kentucky was that Rand Paul wanted to run for president, and for the U.S. Senate, and you can't be on the ballot twice. So the Republican Party of Kentucky created this caucus, and he ran in that. And of course, all the candidates were here, including Donald Trump. And then Trump came back to an NRA convention in Louisville, and then also came and raised some money in July. And Hillary Clinton was here several times because it was a tight Democratic primary here. You remember she barely defeated Bernie Sanders in that May primary in Kentucky.
And of course, the polls close at 6 o'clock. If people are in line then, you can still go ahead and vote.
You can still vote.
Do you expect it to come in pretty quickly?
It will be a while. Of course, in Kentucky, we have 2 time zones. So in the Eastern time zone, it's 6 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock. So they're still voting from our standpoint until 6 o'clock local time, which is 7 o'clock our time. So it's an hour later in the Central time zones, and that'll be going on into the evening. And what we want to do is we have our reporters out covering